Everybody's going nuts over the election. Let's see who's winning. Who's winning? Who's winning? Who's winning? I don't know. Do you know who's winning? I have no idea. Election day, election polls. Let's see who's winning. Who's winning? Who's winning? Who's winning? All right. Where's who won, man? Just see. Tell me who won. We just want to know who won right now. What, they don't have already prediction? Oh, they already have. Look! Governors, Republicans. Democrats, Republicans. Well, what is this? Well, where's the goddamn... Okay, here we go. Updated 175 minutes ago. What the hell good is that, man? Did they have live coverage or not? Now, fuck you, you fucker. Live election. All right. We'll open a window so we can see. All right, here we go, man. Here it is. There it is. Does it refresh? Okay, Joe Biden, 85. Donald Trump, 55. He's got all the usual dumbass states, but we're the stupid people. Ohio went Trump. Ohio? Wow, that's a big problem for the big boy. Pennsylvania went Biden? Oh my God. Oh, that's only 4%. I don't know. I mean, if he lost Ohio and Pennsylvania, I think that's over, right? Texas? He's ahead in Texas? Holy moly, motherfucker! Kansas? Now we understand Mississippi, Alabama, you know. They got the racist control of it. Georgia, yeah, you know, these racist Dixiecrat states. Anyway, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the Trimet board meeting, and we left it off here, so let's go.
I'll cover a quick update on COVID.
Oh, okay, wait. This is the general manager report. This is important.
Ridership briefly for the last month, and we will come back and to talk about the review and reimagining public safety. So John Gardner is going to give us an update on that. So, and perhaps John can talk specifically to the committee, the names on the committee, structure, etc. That was even part of the public delegations. Also want to give you an update on the budget, how we're doing. I think we're trying to report back on a quarterly basis, I think, for the board's request, particularly with the financial challenges we've got in the world we all live in right now. And
what did he say?
We'll also give a quarterly...
Did he say the financial challenges of the world we live in? See, here comes the lies, man. Let me see if I can just roll it back a little bit.
Something that is up for discussion later on. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, let's go roll back. Let's pay attention here.
Thank you. Good discussion.
Let's not get
anybody else comments or questions
distracted by the fake election.
I'm not hearing any or seeing any hands raised, so I'm going to move on then to the general manager's report. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. Good morning, everybody. So yeah, for the general manager's report, we have a number of updates for you. The first one, I'll cover a quick update on COVID, talk about ridership briefly for the last month, and we will come back and to talk about the review and reimagining public safety. So John Gardner is going to give us an update on that. So
I can't wait for that.
Perhaps John can talk specifically to the committee, the names on the committee, structure, etc. That was even part of the public delegations. Also want to give you an update on the budget, how we're doing. I think we're trying to report back on a quarterly basis, I think, for the board's request, particularly with the financial challenges we've got in the world we all live in right now. And we'll also give a quarterly performance report, which is due to you. Sam Dessou will do that. And finally, Guy Ben will give an update on a potential proposal on a TOD that the team's been working behind the scenes on.
Yeah, a bunch of crap going on.
So firstly, COVID, just the latest efforts here is we've now got on essentially almost the whole fleet here now, the dispensers, the mass dispensers, the permanent ones, on the max fleet, the buses, Wes is done, and Lyft has its own unique way of distributing because it's more of an on-demand, one-to-one relationship. So feeling pretty good about that. And in fact, we've been giving out over 3 million masks on the system to date. So so they seem to be in demand.
And there's the answer, folks.
Pretty darn high compliance.
Remember the
We're
question?
not perfect.
Remember the question that the Trimet Twitter said, how many masks? It's 3 million. The correct answer is 3 million. And probably half of those have been thrown on the floor because we hear the calls with the crazy people. The driver says, you know, I need a mask. And the goddamn rider just takes the masks and throws them all over the floor.
We do know because of the sensitivity for some who maybe have health conditions where they can't wear a mask. So we're trying to be sensitive about this and reading. You can see even on the bus scrolls we had put on, you know, mask required. So we're trying to do as much communication as we can around being safe and secure. And I think even if you look around, there's more and more studies coming out now where in fact transit is not seen as a conduit for COVID, which has been great. And I think I'm really proud of all the work our team has done behind the scenes.
That's a complete bullshit lie, okay? We know that COVID is most prevalent in closed spaces, and that includes transit, unless all the windows are open. Okay, that's just a lie. You know, let's call them out. Let's call out all the lies. I mean, they come up with whatever they want to come up with, whatever they need to get people to behave in the ways they want you to behave. And we know the entire society we live in is rigged with lies. Everything is a lie. Everything they being them, Trump, Biden, Republicans, Democrats, is a lie. I would say wear your mask on transit. Absolutely.
And I think our results are evident of that so far. By the way, so the operator safety panels, I think I mentioned last time, on all vehicles that leave our shop every day to provide service, every one of them for our bus operators. There's very few agencies in North America who actually have this in place. We're one of them now. But to help our operators as a secondary measure, in addition to the masks, which we see them all wearing as the buses go by and the trains go by every day. The cash fares I'm not sure if I mentioned at the last board meeting, so I held off on collecting cash fares until we had some confidence that.
See, I held off. The Emperor of Trimet, unelected. I held off. We don't vote for him.
The bus barriers were on the whole fleet that was in service. So that's now the case. And I think that the cash fare collection's now been turned back on, if you will, to the public. And it seems to be going really quite well. So I have even heard from operators thanking us for doing that because, in fact, some of it had created conflict for them and or tied up running time, things of that nature while they explained why some paid, some didn't pay, etc. So it seems to be going quite well overall. We do continue to educate our...
It's going wonderfully. Check at Rip City Twitter. Check my blog. Check my Twitter. See how wonderfully things are going.
Riders, I don't think it'll never end until this vaccine is implemented and we have a cure and we get back to whatever the new normal is.
Yeah.
We did do a rider survey though, and they did tell us.
And of course, you know that this whole COVID thing has been mishandled completely by the world governments. It's been used as a way to clamp down on societies and turn us into robots. I don't agree that there should have ever been a lockdown ever. There should have been a mandatory masks when you're in a public place with a lot of people, but not lockdowns are just insane. You know, taking away the 30 million people thrown out of work is genocide, as far as I'm concerned. All right. I know a lot of people think that the lockdowns are the only way. Well, throwing people out of work without adequate compensation is worse than risking the COVID, because most people recover from the COVID. There's a lot of other things that can happen, but most people do recover. So is it worth 30 million unemployed? I say no.
They're looking for a steady, ongoing frequency of information from Trimet. So we're really trying to give them more information on a consistent basis now. So, for example, we produced recently a series of videos with the Multnomah County Communicable Health Director that answers questions around the ABCs of the coronavirus and how do you get around on transit. So we use actually third-party validators of some of the healthy steps to take to continue to use our system. So again, with the existing investment in the literally millions and millions, I think it's about 10 to $12 million we've got in sanitizer and masks and operator safety panels and all the other communication pieces that we've got going on. We want to, if people don't feel safe and secure, we know they're not going to come unless they have no other choice. So we want them to feel safe and secure. So we have to be careful. Let's not market ourselves until we're really ready that a public confidence is there. So we take that really serious. We've also sent out a number of news releases and videos that show the cleaning staff, our process. Some of you may have seen them. I think all of them are online as well. Everything we're doing to keep the system safe. And just as so the board's aware, we also check in and get a daily report around what activities are all the other, most all the other transit agencies in North America doing with their COVID practices. So we try and learn, and if there's something we think is a nugget that might be helpful and applicable for our circumstances, we factor that in, and we have a committee that actually looks at that. So just want to let you know, so we're not just looking at things in an isolated bubble, if you will. A committee. So we continue to take information in and filter accordingly. We also, by the way, did produce an animation in a blog post that demonstrates the ventilation system specifically, because that's been asked about, what the circulating air and what's the best practices to do, so people, particularly on Macs, can feel confident the air they're breathing is filtered and it's also well circulated. So that's available for people as well. And again, they're all available on the different YouTube channels and on our website if you're so inclined to see those. The second topic, ridership. For the month of September, we carried just under 3.2 million riders. That continues to be down sharply, of course, because of COVID and the economy. Right now, year over year, that represents about 40% of our normal ridership. So if you do go back to last September, though, we also had launched a significant new amount of service at that time. So we continue to remain under pressure ridership wise. I did see.
Hold on, we got some Jason calls. Wait a minute. Let's see what he's got here. Trimet incident, cold at West Burnside. Guy won't get off bus. Did he get the call? Hold on. Jason's at home today, I guess. Come on, load that page. Here it comes. I don't have internet problems. Not sure why.
2068. Hey, 2068, I got your customer contact. What's going on? I got a guy standing on the ramp. I deployed the ramp for a mobility device, and he's standing on the plane. It's not letting me close because he's saying something about wanting to talk to a supervisor, that he owns the company, that his name is Kenneth Keys, and he owns the whole city, and he's not moving from this spot until somebody talks to him. I need him off the bus because I need to try to close the ramp and move down the road. All right, copy. Can I get a description of him? White male, wearing like
Whoops.
some weird looking
Victor Superstar.
cap on his head, a couple of backpacks, paper bag, white sneakers, blue jeans, gray hoodie, and a flowered mask. And he's just standing there. He's just staring into oblivion. Doesn't want to get off the bus. At this point, I want him off the bus because.
Attaboy, Victor. You tell him, Vicky baby.
All right, copy. Do you have an approximate age for this guy? Height maybe? He's about 5'5", 5'6", white male. I'm gonna say mid-20s. Okay, just so you know, we are gonna call police. We'll have a supervisor come up there as well, but we are gonna call police.
Get police, get popo.
If the guy does get off the ramp or anything like that, and we're able to roll. I'm hoping. I mean, he got on, and, you know, I said fair is required.
Oh! It was a fair. Attaboy, Victor Superstar. Never learn your lessons. Just keep going, man. You're lucky you work for Trimet. Just keep going, man. Yep, keep on doing it.
And he said that he wasn't, but then he started giving me all this spiel that he owns the company and that he's been gone for 10 years and he owns Trimet, Portland Police, you know. But
Victor Superstar was terminated, but he won his job back. You can kind of see why they dumped him, but I guess, you know, he's safe now. They can't do it again, so they got to put up with him.
going along without whatever. No, I copy. You know,
Let's see how Julie handles this
unfortunately,
one.
this stuff happens sometimes, so we are calling police.
Oh, is that Julie?
Supervisor should be up there pretty soon. Just then you're ready for service. Sometimes these people just decide to be bored. Other times, the police.
All right, enough of that. Back to this.
The MTA in New York, for example, is one of the agencies I follow quite closely. They're still on their subway system down 70%. So this continues to be.
Yeah, no kidding, but they have a real transit system. Okay, you can't compare MTA to Trimet. All right, don't even bring it up. Okay, it's not. That's gaslighting. Okay, that's called gaslighting. And by the way, so far 85 electoral votes for Biden and 61 for Trump. So it's a neck and neck race as they're coming around the corner. Yep. God, what a joke.
Be a national challenge and an industry challenge for everybody, and we're not exempt from that. So we are seeing the greatest deficits inside the numbers during the commuting or specifically the peak hours.
Yeah, of course.
Our weekend service, for example, though, it's down about 49%, and our frequent service bus lines are down 40%. So
yeah,
there is some movement around there underneath the average.
The ridership's never coming back. Okay, we know that. People that your so-called choice riders that you've been catering to for the last 2 decades are gone. You know, your whole strategy was a fail. You should never cater to them in the first place. But of course, there's big money for the developer class. And it was really about the developers anyway. It wasn't about the riders. They never really did care about the riders. And they still don't.
But the ridership continues to be challenged. So,
of course.
We did, if you recall, back in September, we did restore some service back by about 10%. So part of that was intended to try and prime the pump of more usage a bit. But we are starting to track over the next several months. Do we keep that service level out or not? Or is there beyond essential services or something where there's some uptick where people are voting with their feet and actually using it?
No, they have this all ass backwards. I've talked about it before. They wanted people on the system. They needed to make it really frequent so there was no overcrowding it. They've done this whole thing backwards. This whole COVID bullshit crap has shown everybody why fare-free transit is the way to go. I mean, if they had another way to fund this, we wouldn't be having this problem. But we have a neoliberal ownership. This is an oligarchy. That's why I don't care. It's better if Trump wins, actually, as far as I'm concerned, because at least we know he's an enemy. Okay, those of us with a brain, that is. You know who he is. Biden's the same as Trump without being Trump. Okay, and that's basically the truth. I mean, I'm tired of, Trump incites violence. That's really his biggest sin, is that he incites violence. But I imagine that he's being egged to do this by the oligarchy to split the society in half, because splitting the republic in half is important for the oligarchy to maintain its control.
Our service. So we're going to continue to monitor that, particularly the next couple of months coming up. I think will be important too, and we'll share that with the board. In terms of reimagining public safety, maybe I'm going to ask John if he can unmute, John Gardner, that is, excuse me. We did reach a new milestone since the last meeting, as the Transit Advisory Committee started to hold their meetings. We brought together a pretty darn diverse and incredibly talented group. And I know sitting in on the first meeting, it was quite interesting as the group went around and as they were all introduced to each other, they were complimenting the diversity and the strength of the group amongst themselves, and they were frankly honored to be with their fellow peers. I know we actually have on our committee, and John can talk to this further, we have representation on the committee, and you can never really have everybody on this committee. If at some point we're kind of stretched now, we've got, I think it's about 15, John could comment to, on the committee, which is challenging as a number to work through with the confines that we've got and the restrictions we've got trying to advance this conversation.
What restrictions?
Some of the members we have on the committee represent over 20,000 people who have actually their customers and clients, from homelessness to mental health and such. These are people who deliver service every single day. And so that's where the rubber hits the road for us. And that's where we've had a lot of desires, you heard some today, for people wanting to be on the sort of blue ribbon or advisory committee. But that's not to say people can't provide input in numerous different ways. We've had elected officials who've wanted to be on the committee as well, and others. So I think you'll see from John's comments that we have a significant emphasis on those who deliver service every single day out there and really live and breathe this across the region in a number of processes. So the committee itself, so far, they've met 4 times, a total of 8 hours so far. This is a heavy lift for the group. And I really want to thank them, and it's been fascinating listening to some of the conversations. So very talented group. So it's a big commitment, and we really appreciate their time, energy,
talking about even
the robust engagement that's already started, and it's underway right now. So John, I'm just going to maybe turn it over to you. With, I'll pause here, and if you don't mind, if you wouldn't mind, also just if you had any comments around the TEC Youth Committee that I think Director Way was actually inquiring about as well. If you can kind of sneak that in there, that'd be helpful as well.
Great, thank you, Doug. Yeah, let me start with the TEC Youth Committee, and then you'll see them in terms of what we recommended for the Reimagine update. So we did, Director Gonzalez was correct. We started a TEC Youth Committee early, I want to say it was last year, right before the pandemic hit. And we did partner with Multnomah County Youth Commission to do a lot of the outreach, as well as our high school access youth transit program. And we tried to figure out, can we do this on Saturday? Can we do it using technology so folks don't have to travel? And we got lukewarm response in terms of youth wanting to give up a weekend to be part of Trimet's youth committee. But we were trying to accommodate that reality. But since that time, Maria Klemenko has actually been able to grow that group a little bit and sustain it, even through the current pandemic. And the youth committee did convene and have their own focus group around the Reimagine Safety conversation. So, and we do have youth from Milwaukee, but I would love to hear other youth from Clackamas, from any of you in terms of youth that want to be involved. But we have youth from Gresham, from Tigard, from just all over the region, Lake Oswego, a lot of Portland youth, Beaverton, like I said, Happy Valley. But we're interested in getting more. So, and I could talk more about the youth committee and what its work is and what they produced at a future meeting, but they've been definitely involved in this process. So let me transition to a update on the Reimagine program, and I'm going to share my screen.
Virginia is for lovers. All right. Okay, what do we got? Let's look. What is this shit? Okay.
All right, can folks see that?
All right.
We can.
So excellent. So let's stop for a minute. This is where OPAL has been locked out of this conversation. Okay, we just heard them say that earlier. So this whole conversation, this whole presentation he is giving is without ATU 757 input and without OPAL BRU input. So this is all very much a Trumpian presentation. And when I say Trumpian, I mean it just comes from one point of view, and that's it. And they expect us to buy it. That's Trumpian. Like this is the point of view that everybody should believe.
So as Doug said, the committee is off and running, and we've already convened 4 times. And just as a quick primer and reminder about this all came about when Trimet's leadership.
Yeah, see this. Look, okay, we'll just do how I've always been doing this. Hearing communities' concerns, Trimet shifts security funding to community-based public safety services to keep riders and employees safe. Well, right now there's nothing keeping anybody safe. All right, It takes forever for the cops to show up for incidents. So there's nothing that's safe. So let's just start that there. Trimet will initiate 3 efforts to inform or reimagine public safety. Conduct community-wide listening sessions. They already have this information. It's on their Facebook page and on their Twitter page. They already have it. But this is what they do. They like to, this gives them a job. Conduct community-wide listening. That's just crap. Establish a panel of local and national experts. That's totally bullshit, and it needs to. That tells you right there. This whole thing is useless. The experts have failed us. I'm going to say it again. The experts are why we are in this problem. They should not be listened to whatsoever. Pilot new non-police community informed response. And you just heard the OPAL people tell the Trimet board, who doesn't listen to anything but Kelsey, but they pretend to be listening, that we already had that. We had the rider advocates. They used to ride the system. We already had this. But notice how none of that is here. This is completely a Trimet production, and it is no use to the rest of us. And we know your game. Just like I sent you the letter saying, I know you're lying about hazard pay. I know it's a lie. I know I can't do anything about it, but we know you're lying. You're lying, and so is Donald Trump lying. So are you better than Trump? The answer is no.
Decided to disinvest from the regional transit policing contract and use those savings instead to invest in community-informed strategies to make the system more safe and vulnerable.
Yeah, let's clear that up. That was $1.8 million that had been set aside to hire more officers that they never filled those slots. So nothing really changed there. And they moved control of the goddamn police from the Portland police to the sheriff. Big deal. Nothing changed.
We've spent this summer essentially doing outreach and reaching out to the community across the Tri-County area and doing multiple community-wide listening groups. And
I think John Gardner's a hack, by the way. I don't see anything good about this guy.
Focus groups. And then recently we did convene and launch a local panel, and you'll see those folks in terms of how, and their job really is to take those recommendations, those ideas, and with the lens of understanding how the system operates and some of the challenges we face, and inform a series of recommendations back to Trimet's leadership in terms of what we can do to move forward that we hope to bring to you all during the November retreat. All of these recommendations are non-police, community-informed initiatives or pilots that we believe can inform the larger approach to safety and security as part of the effort to reimagine. So who have we been working with, and who's done the work? So we had multiple community-based organizations participate.
Opal, they just said Opal's not in there.
Those organizations
they just said they're not in there.
Their own community.
Okay, here's Opal, see? We just heard from Opal, and they said they weren't included. And yet here they are. Something wrong with that one.
Whether it was the African Family Holistic Health Organization, or Centro Cultural, or Constructing Hope, or Division Midway Alliance, El Programa Hispano, Boston Media and the Soul District, FACT Oregon, Hockey, Home Plate Youth Services, ERCO, Join, Latino Network, Opal, Yeja, Rosewood Initiative, and We All Rise. We feel we did a really good job working with folks who had the capacity during a very tough time to engage their community. And so all of this information, all of the findings, all of the recommendations has been provided to the committee, and that's informing their decisions. We also work with organizations who themselves manage coalitions. And I want to speak to, for example, Portland United Against Hate, who convene their members. And their membership does include organizations that are very much focused on the defund the police effort, as well as the abolitionist effort as well. And the groups that Portland United Against Hate convene and that we've heard from is the 107th, As the Spirit Moves Us, Apano, Black and Beyond the Binary Collective, CARE, Fair Housing Oregon, the Guardian Angels, Lewis and Clark Gender Project, Northeast Neighborhood Coalition, Portland Office of Community and Civic Life, Public Safety, PBOT, and Resolutions Northwest. And Trimet is actually a partner with Portland United Against Hate, and we participate in their monthly conversations just to keep us connected to what's happening, and I guess what I would say across the advocacy community. We also, as you know,
They
have
got
been
all
working
nice
with the
little-
Coalition of Communities of Color, and they convene their members. And the
I don't
groups
know,
that they
man.
convene for the safety reimagining conversation that we've heard from, that we
I
received
don't know,
report and
this is
recommendations for, that have informed this process were
Ugh.
Africa House and the Slavic Network of Oregon, Paros
Slavic?
PDX, Latino Network,
Who
NEA,
are these people?
OPAL, Oregon Futures Lab, Portland African American Leadership Forum, Portland Community Reinvestment Initiatives, Self-Enhancement Incorporated, Unite Oregon, Bear Day, Apano, and Hacienda. So we feel really good about the many voices, the many diverse
course you
voices
do.
who developed recommendations, who were able to sit and discuss and think through strategies for us, and who ultimately will
They got
and
two
have
bus
been informing
operators
this
and two-
process. And of course, Trimet itself, we convene our committees, which you can see, we convened the TIAC committee, we
Union leaders?
convened CAT, and we committed the youth committee that we formed and had really good conversations. All of these
I
committees
don't really know what
and
you're
all of these
talking about, do you?
convenings resulted in reports that were part of the master background that we've been providing the larger panel that has informed the recommendations. The reports and the questions and the conversations were all built off the same questions we asked the over 12,000 people who responded as part of our survey, right? So when we talk about the survey results and the temperature gauge we have about how people feel, those questions were the same ones we used as centering questions for these different conversations. But I think someone mentioned this earlier. We also heard directly beyond the surveys from our writers, and we brought in 4 different writer focus groups, 2 from our Writers Club and 2 from our Low-Income Fair program. So we know that the Low-Income Fair program, these writers are all under 200% of the federal poverty level. So we heard exactly what they think and what they feel Trimet should be working towards, as well as our own team of employees across different employee groups.
Where
We did a
is
lot of
all
work
of
to make sure
this?
their voice.
He says we heard from them. Where is all this published? Where is this? You've heard from all these people. Let's see, where did you put all the information? It should be published somewhere. Let's hear what they said. You know, this reminds me of the Kirk Reeves Bridge. They said, let's vote for the name of the bridge. Kirk Reeves won, and then they just disregarded it and called it the Till I Come.
This was part of this process.
Let me see how are we doing on time here?
So let's talk a little bit about who we pulled into this. And I agree with Doug. It is an incredibly impressive group. And I think it's actually very balanced, both geographically and service or system-wise.
Okay, stop.
So we have
Shut up. Okay, Marcus Mindy, Coalition of Communities of Colors, Community Coalition of 19, Specific CBE, never heard of them. Joe McFerrin, High School. Who are these people? Constructing. Who are all these people? Retired police, transit police commander. Yeah, great. Professional builders. Highland African American Youth Coalition. Word is Bond. Cascadia Health, State of Oregon. Central former transit system. Oh, Beverly Scott. Yeah, just who you don't need. Polly Hansen, America.
Monday from the Coalitions of Communities of Color. Joe McFerrin from POIC Rosemary Anderson High Schools. We have Anthony Deloney from Self-Enhancement Incorporated. We have Patricia Daniels from Constructing Hope. We have Jan Campbell from Disability Rights.
By the way, the current count is 85 electoral colleges for Biden and 72 for Trump. Trump leads the popular vote, by the way. Wouldn't that be something if Trump won the popular vote but lost electoral college? Yeah, that's never going to happen.
It's Oregon and CAT. We have Kevin Modica, who is a retired transit police commander, but also works with Representative Lou Frederick. So he understands regional governance and community issues as well. We also have Kenichi Onigishu from Professional Builders Development Group. We have Deshaun Hardy from Highland African American Youth Coalition. We have Tanya Drury from Word is Bond. We have Laura Cohen from Cascadia Behavioral Health.
Dakota.
We have Jackie Yerby from Basic Rights Oregon. We have Jonathan Colon from Central Cultural. We do have Dr. Beverly Scott. She's supported the organization in the past around helping us create a diversity plan for our workforce. And obviously, being a general manager of 2 other properties, she brings a lot of expertise to the conversation. We have Emily Nelson from Join, and we have Kim Cota from the Clackamas County Development Disability Services. So I would just hopefully not have to point out, but some of the folks on this list, many of the folks on this list have been working, whether it was for culturally specific organizations or holistic family and youth education and social service organizations for decades. So this idea that we don't have folks who understand racism as it exists in this community, or the effects of gentrification as it has occurred in this community, or what is happening with COVID-19 is very disappointing. And I would just ask for folks to just take a look at the folks on this list, and if they need additional information, which we will have biographies and the final.
Just because you have a list of people, okay, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, that you have a list of people, and somehow we're supposed to say, "Oh, you're listening." No, that doesn't work. First of all, we don't know what they all said. You don't have any, where is the information? Just because you have a list of people doesn't mean shit. And anybody that's like Bev Scott, she doesn't know anything about Portland. Was fired from the MBTA. I mean, APTA, that's a goddamn professional organization for transit place. That's a transit. What do you call that? A market, they market in favor of public transportation. I don't know who these people are. Do you?
Report, but we feel like that those voices are very much represented in this conversation.
Of course you do, and we don't agree.
So where we're at, we are about halfway done. We spent the first 4 meetings really socializing the committee to safety on the system, the scale of our system, our operations, the results of the survey. As I said earlier, we did hear from 12,500 respondents about what their thoughts were about how they feel about certain safety strategies, but also what ideas they have for how we can move forward. And all of that information is informing the committee, as well as the lived, learned, and professional experience of every committee member. And so now we'll be transitioning to the recommendation stage, where we will once again show the committee what we heard from our community-based organizations, what we heard from the survey, what we heard from our writers, what we heard from our writers of color or limited English proficient communities. And they will use all of that to help develop a series of ideas to go forward to Trimet's leadership and ultimately to you all in terms of what's accomplishable or what they think we should be prioritizing with this $1.8 million, which is not the end of the project, but to me, it's really the beginning. One of the things I want to talk about is what happens after you all are seeing these final recommendations. We begin sort of creating that plan to advance those recommendations. We definitely believe we'll be reconstituting our current safety subcommittee of TIAC and giving them the charge for ongoing work and development around these issues. So we're not stopping. We don't know if all of the current committee members are going to be part of that. I think we'll be bringing in additional folks. We did ask OPAL to be part of that because that's more of an ongoing system implementation.
They just said they didn't get asked. So he's telling us that they lied.
Implementation of this work and other things that potentially are bigger than what we are able to accomplish with the charge of the Reimagine group. But I feel really good about what we've done so far, who we brought to the table, and how we're going to go forward. And just as a reminder, all of the meetings are online and folks can log in and see it. All of the materials we'll be posting on the webpage that we want to use and leverage going forward. I do want to address maybe some of the concerns, I guess, that were brought up by OPAL around youth involvement and other things. So of the 12,000 surveys, almost 1,200 of those came from youth, 16 to 24. I think maybe 120 or so were from 16 to 18, and the other 1,100 were 18 to 24. So that combined with our Trimet Youth Committee, with the Multnomah County Youth Commission, with YEJA, which is OPAL's youth group, who we contracted with and paid to have a focus group and inform the process. We feel the youth voice is very much built into this conversation and into these recommendations. As far as OPAL itself being on the committee, as you can see, I can go back and we have a very robust committee. But one of the things I think, if you didn't track it, I'll show you.
Did you hear that? As far as OPAL themselves being on the committee, we have a very robust committee, and yet OPAL is the #1 advocacy group for transit riders. I mean, it's a disgrace. This is disgraceful and a fraud. As far as I'm concerned, it's a fraud.
Again, what's exciting is that OPAL, who's a great organization in terms of advocacy and organizing. Generally speaking, we didn't need advocacy and organizing because that would have been used to create the project. But Trimet's general manager,
whoa, did you hear that?
Led on this issue and divested, reduced our regional footprint for transit policing, and then set aside resources. And generally, that's what you would advocate for, which I think you heard in their comments about reducing the number of police. We've done that, and we've set aside resources. Okay,
so you hear what's going on here. I hope you hear this. He's trying to rationalize why Opal's not on that. This is an obvious. He's just admitted that they have intentionally excluded Opal and BRU from this committee. He's just admitted it. They don't want them there. Just like they didn't want me at the last 2 contracts ago. There was a big brouhaha about opening up the ATU negotiations and allowing me to be an observer. And Trimet would never allow that, because they won't allow anybody near them that's not part of their cult. And this is a cult. Just like Trump, he's got a cult. Trimet's got a cult. Anybody that's not with their cult, they don't want you around.
But still, I think Opal actually, when you look at it, might have had the most involvement. Not only were they paid and contracted to do focus groups, they were part of TX's initial development of the project, and they were also part of multiple community convenings in terms of all the recommendations. And so we have their report, as well as their feedback across the other, I want to say, the coalition of communities.
They are not on your committee. He's making a million excuses. The fact of the matter is they're not on your committee, and they should be. They should be. You just admitted to everybody that you don't want them on your committee. And maybe nobody will ever see this but me, but you've just outed yourself. You've just outed yourself.
Group and the Portland United Against Hate group. So we feel really good about what they were hoping for this project to achieve, as well as what their message was. I think rider advocates was a question on the survey and received a lot of support, and that's going to be one of the things the committee gets to wrestle with in terms of recommendations. So although they're not a member of the committee itself, their vision or their agenda or their ideas are definitely represented.
That's I hope the Opal people are listening to this, okay? Because this is total bullshit. Okay, this is total bullshit. If they care, Opal not at this table means that this has no legitimacy. I said it before I started taping this. There's no legitimacy at all in this project because they've excluded the most important advocacy group in the area, which is Opal BRU, who's been advocating for years on behalf of riders. And they were specifically excluded from this committee, which establishes the committee itself is not legitimate, even though he's trying to present this false gaslighting that somehow, well, we don't have them on committee, but we have all their ideas in the committee. No, this is gaslighting, okay? That's what he's doing. He's gaslighting us.
So I feel really good about their ability and their participation in the project so far. Other than that, we've heard only good things from the communities and the organizations which we believe represent the Tri-County area from the process to date. And I think when we come back to you at the end of this, we'll have some of the community partners who participated walk through what they feel the experiences was and their hopes for what happens next. So that's where we're at. I'd love to answer any additional questions.
Excellent report. Go ahead. Keith, is that you?
Yes,
thank
you, Bruce. Thank you, John. That was a very good presentation.
Here we go with the cheerleading.
I have a question on the fourth bullet on the second slide. It talks about,
excellent report. Excellent. You do everything right. Everything is perfect.
Community-informed response resources. Are you getting suggestions, good suggestions, I should say? And when I say good suggestions, I mean suggestions that are viable, that can be used in regards to structurally and design-wise and with implementation that's going to be successful in providing safety and security for the not only the employees but for transit clients as well.
Yeah, we're getting a ton of really, really good suggestions, and some of the suggestions potentially go beyond the scope of the community's charge for community informed or community opportunities for investment. There are some infrastructure, lighting, SEPTED sort of safety design things. And one of the things I want to mention is all of the information we've gathered, it's not just for the committee, it's for the agency itself. And so there's a lot we're going to be able to take away from the surveys and from the focus groups that we're going to be able to work through and try to think about how we can move forward beyond the scope of the committee itself, that are just really good ideas that I think Marlon and her team and others around here are excited to sort of understand and unpack. So, for example, you can imagine there are infrastructure recommendations that might be very expensive, but they're more about strengthening the appealingness of the system itself, right? So it's more about making the system welcoming and safe from an infrastructure standpoint that we could possibly accomplish through other more maintenance of way or just general infrastructure updates. But yeah, we're getting a lot of really good ideas. And the challenge really is trying to focus the committee on, what is achievable through this community's charge and what might have a continual life in other arenas.
Thank you very much. One of my concerns is this reimagining of non-police is a concern, of course, for the safety of the traditional aspect of it in regard to our customers and in regard to our workers and employees. But also I'm concerned about the safety of those new personnel that are going to have to be putting themselves in harm's way sometimes in order to make sure that everyone else is safe. So that's my concern as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see we have two board members who've mastered the technology. I'll call on Director Bauman first.
Thank you. Yes, the location of the raise hand button has moved, at least on my screen. So I figured it out. Hey, John, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of the work that's gone into this and all the voices from the community that you've gathered. My question is real simple. I see that on the website, the town hall, the recordings of the town hall events are available. Are you going to make available recordings of the advisory committee meeting?
Here you go. Excellent question. Excellent question. Excellent. That's what I want to hear from the board. Yes. Let's see what his answer is.
Yeah, I think we are. I think we're trying to figure out, is it better to do it as part of our YouTube channel?
Or what?
We do them real time, but yeah, we want to make everything available because, like I said, the website itself, we want to use as...
Of course you should put it on your YouTube channel. That's the most used platform. Put it up there. I'll watch it.
An ongoing platform. So we're going to be sending an update to all of our project partners this week just about where we're at, similar to this, but maybe more narrative form, and remind them that they can be part of the real-time process, and just thanking them. And we're trying to figure out how we can also send an update to all the folks that took the survey, just to keep everybody engaged. But we see that web page as being sort of a portal that we can continue to communicate progress on the recommendations, but also hopefully the investments. But yeah, I do think the videos themselves, we're trying to figure out how do they're saved in Zoom, but I think we're going to transition them to YouTube. So anyone can look at the process or the conversations. And we're trying to make this as transparent and accessible as possible. Other questions?
I see Director Way.
Thank you. I think Director Bauman took my question around sort of that public availability piece of information. I think also just related to that, will meeting agendas be posted in advance just so that, we can sort of have a higher level view of what the discussion topics will be at each meeting? John, you mentioned that there were 4 meetings already taken place, I think, which is great. And I also want to acknowledge that these are all volunteers who are, probably working really full-time jobs and then also committing their time and their effort into this. So I really want to thank you for for recruiting and sort of retaining this group. So before I ask other questions, I just want to ask about that sort of the meeting agenda and whether or not they will also be available.
Yeah, we communicated the meeting schedule and the sort of the high level agenda, like here's the 3 things we're talking about. We could probably do a better job to send out like, hey, tonight it's this conversation. To be fair, basically an hour of the 2 hours is fairly scripted, with the second hour being wherever the committee wants to go. So we can do that high level thing, which I don't think we've done consistently since the second meeting, but we can make sure we're doing that for tomorrow's meeting, for example.
Thank you. And I think as a board member, I mean, I would be interested in, again, just, seeing how these meetings are going, how the conversations are taking shape. So I have 2 other sort of just maybe committee structure questions. One is, how many folks do you feel like currently on the security committee represent transit-dependent riders?
That's a good question.
Do you have a sense of?
Yeah, I'd say about 80% of the committee. I'd say about 80% of the committee represent transit-dependent, transit-reliant riders, right? Or whether, I think a good example would be in youth.
Do you have any goddamn transit-dependent riders on there? I get myself too excited. I have a heart attack.
A lot. So obviously SEI and POSC, with their multiple locations and their history of serving culturally specific communities and families of color, and the fact that they provide secondary services across the East Portland, East Multnomah County, those folks. But I think even when you look at Cascade Behavioral Health, and Lauren Cohen spoke to this, her clients are using our system in transit dependent, right? And so are the Clark Disability Service. Her clients are transit dependent, whether folks with disabilities.
You need the clients, not her.
Obviously, Jen Campbell, but it might even be higher. Central Cultural, Jackie Yerby, who's on Basic Rights Oregon board, but also on the Portland Bike Trust and many other boards. Her community and her partners are transit users and transit dependent. So it's probably about 80 or 90%. In even our partners from APTA and obviously Dr. Scott understand the challenges for transit dependent communities. So we feel we have a ton of expertise on this committee.
Of course you do. Of course you feel that.
Great,
what do you think he's going to say?
My final question is,
what do you think he's going to say?
Obviously we'll get some recommendations from this body around how to move forward, but I'm sort of curious as to how those decisions will get made and whether or not, will it be consensus driven? Will it be majority? Will it be, I guess, what would the voting, if there is a voting process in place, what would that look like? And then who sets that? Is there a chairperson and a vice chair, or is it staff driven?
Yeah, so Marcus Mundy is the chair, and Jonathan Colon is the vice chair. And we're working with Allison Brown from GLA on the facilitation. We're building a process, so it's really more of how do people feel, because we don't want to silence, the single voice who might be advocating for X. So the idea is really, what we're doing now is building out a matrix that we're going to be sharing tomorrow with a committee that shows all the different, I guess you could say maybe the top 25 or 30 ideas that came across from the different groups by group, so they can understand, the focus groups really like these ideas, the survey like these ideas, the LEP like these ideas, BIPOC like these ideas, and with some space for them if they feel like an idea is not represented. And then we're going to ask them to take some time during the meeting, but also over the weekend, to really come back with what are their front runners. And I do think that, unfortunately or fortunately, 1.8 million is a lot of money, but it's finite. And so some of the stuff we're going to have to understand, where can we partner, right? Where can we partner, and are there existing services or resources we can align with or leverage? And that's why the committee going forward, the action group going forward, that will be working with Marla and her team and others to sort of make all this stuff materialize. That's why it's so important. But we're trying to, it won't be, this one is, I think it's more like the impression of the group is there's a lot of energy on this one. So this is one we feel confident in moving forward. And we'll circle back. The committee will know what we're bringing forward for them, that for leadership to consider.
Leadership that nobody Voted for. How are we doing on time?
All right. Any other board members who have not been heard from have a question or comment?
Let me see. Oh shit! Already now. I'm gonna have.
I'm not seeing it.
I'm gonna
I would
have a
just
lot
add,
of
John, I'm
episodes
really
here
excited
because
about what you folks are doing here. This is
3-hour meeting.
I'm
only
a
an hour
very
and 15
inclusive
minutes into
process. I feel that the comments that were given to us earlier this morning are being addressed by this. They probably want a seat at that committee table is what it sounded like to me.
Yes.
But it feels like they're definitely engaged in this, and I look forward.
Yeah, see, they're doing it again. They want a seat at the table. They don't want your fucking lip service. Okay, this is all bullshit. They have no credibility. You might as well take this report and throw it in the trash. Okay, they're saying, well, we don't want them to sit at our table, but they have a voice. They're lying. It's called gaslighting.
Recommendations that will end up moving us forward in the future in a long-term way we provide these services. So
this is like presidential
again,
policy.
really do appreciate what you're doing, and it's a great effort. And so thanks to everybody who's been involved. It's great.
Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead, Director Gonzalez.
Thank you. I did manage to figure out the hand-raising function. Thank you for the whole crux, Director Bauman, saying it was in a different place. I just had to look elsewhere. I had a couple of things I just wanted to make sure to point out. First and foremost, thank you to John Gardner for the thorough overview of the engagement and for filling in my major void there on the youth engagement levels, because this has been a very deliberate effort. And thank you to Director Y for the question. I want to simply emphasize for those that didn't see themselves on the list, whether it's a member of the community, a member of a transit-dependent or a non-transit-dependent organization who finds themselves very interested in this topic. There are multiple touch points, not only to stay informed, but to engage. And I'd say, if nothing else, you have a line of defense by reaching out to your district representatives from the Trimet board.
No, they want a seat at the table. Okay, a seat at the table or nothing.
What it should be considering. You see that there's a lot of folks involved
Doesn't mean shit.
Very much near and dear to this conversation.
I don't believe anything they're saying. They're liars.
Interests of the community.
I think they lie more than Trump.
I'm thrilled to see what comes out of this. And in closing, I want to acknowledge that we don't get to reinvent governance through this blue ribbon committee. So to Director Y's question about the authority in the final decision, correct me if I'm wrong, President Warner, but I believe that
Warner should be off this.
At the end of this process, what we could potentially see are going to be sets of policy recommendations or anything that could influence policy level decision making that will have to come to the board for consideration, and that this committee will be providing vetted and well community informed recommendations for anything that's going to touch policy. So I believe that this is where, at the end of the day, it comes back to us as the board to look at what it is that this process has yielded that constitutes any major shift
drag it
in
out
policy,
as long as possible,
which I anticipate should come as we're reimagining something at this fundamental stage.
Director Gonzalez, I agree with you completely. And the ultimate policy for us is our budget and where our resources are going.
Our budget, yeah.
So
capital projects for everybody.
That as we get into the budget next year from the results of this work. Director Stovall, I missed your hand. Did you have a comment?
Oh God.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I just raised it just before Director Gonzalez was talking. So yeah, I just want to make a couple quick comments. First and foremost, John, thank you for your work on all of this. This has been something that is critically needed, as everybody knows and has heard me say. I certainly believe that there's systemic and systematic racism that continues to occur throughout our state, throughout our city. And I think this is absolutely the step in the right direction. The review of the list of folks that have come together shows the commitment of so many people who really need to see and want to see the changes that need to occur. So I look forward to, of course, seeing what the outcomes of this great work will be, because it is sorely needed. I also want to quickly address, I was a bit disappointed by the comments of bus riders.
Of course,
I've been
of
on
course.
the board for quite some time now.
We've seen this a million fucking times with these people. A million times where they're disappointed that somebody didn't like them. I mean, I've been watching this shit going all the way back to George Pasador. Look that up. It's 20 years ago. I've been watching this shit forever, and it's the same garbage. Nothing ever changes. I'm disappointed that you don't like us, and you're wrong. You should like us because we're doing everything right. Yeah, it's painful bullshit.
And we have worked closely
But
with...
I'm not going to stop watching you guys. I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to force myself to watch you because maybe I'll be the only one that is.
them on so many things. We have listened on so many things. And to be told now that...
You're not listening to them now. It's just, oh. You heard them. They testified earlier. You're disrespecting them with this. You're saying they're liars. You're calling them liars.
We as a board do not listen. For me, is disappointing.
Yeah, it's disappointing. You don't listen. We know that for a fact. I'm out here in the public. I'm telling you, you don't listen, okay? Don't lie to us. Some of us know you're lying. You do not listen to anything the public has to say. You didn't do... Oh, wait a minute. You did. You didn't close the Saturday Market light rail stop, but there were certain influential people involved in that. All the other light rail stops you shut against public testimony. You don't listen. You don't have ATU. You've been fighting with your union for fucking 10 years. You're doing everything you can to destroy the union. You lie about that. You lie about everything, Travis. And hopefully you won't get to be mayor, but you're such a good bullshitter, you probably can get in there. Because we know how American politics are. The bigger the bullshitter, the better the vote.
I can think of so many areas where we've worked so directly with them on the everything from the strategic financial plan to the increasing the transfer time to...
Yes, they did do that. That was then. This is now. That was then. This is now. Okay, we're not talking about that. We're talking about this. We're talking about reimagining one of the most important aspects of the system, and you've excluded them. And there's no defense.
The work that we did with both them and the rest of our community with our low-income fare programs. They have been at the table for...
The low-income fare, although OPAL did fight for that, that was the crumb that HR 2017 was thrown to because HR 2017, that was the cash grab. And there'll be another cash grab if the voters don't approve this stupid light rail thing. I guarantee you the legislature will steal it from you, just like they did with the 2017 cash grab. So the 2017, HR 2017 cash grab, they gave the people this low-income fare out of like multi-billions of dollars, and they gave them $100 million of that for a low-income fare. How great of our wonderful leaders to do such a thing.
Every single one of those conversations, and we have listened. So I am.
And you are a hack from way back, and I've heard you say this 100 times to people. Somebody like me, you won't even acknowledge I exist. But the people that you do acknowledge exist, this is the same line I hear over and over.
That after all the work and opportunity that they had to have this part of the conversation, that they would actually say that we as a board don't listen and haven't listened.
Okay, he's calling OPAL a liar. Let's get that straight. He's saying they're liars. Just understand that. And he's the liar. and I don't have anything to do with OPAL. I have nothing to do with them. No contact with anybody there. Okay, and I watched OPAL and I watched you, and you're the liar. Okay, I know it.
Listen and incorporate their thoughts into our conversations when we have on so many occasions. And so
okay,
I do want to say
yourself
that I
100
absolutely
times.
Support the committee that has.
Let's hear him repeat himself 100 times, which is like what he likes to do. Mr. Pontificator will pontificate for as long as it'll let him.
And the group has been put together. I think you've got some great thought leaders, John, both locally and nationally, that have an opportunity to lean into this conversation in a real way and actually make
that whole word "thought leader" bothers me. I mean, that's really troubling. Nobody tells me what to think. Nobody tells people what to think. Look at this smug fucking face on him. Look at that. Can you see his? Look. What a smug asshole.
Recommendations for our agency to continue to be responsive to our community. So thank you for the hard work. And again, I look forward to, as Director Way, as she mentioned, it would be good to have kind of continuing kind of updates on the agendas and things like that so that we can be well informed, because this is something that I think our stakeholders, our community, our transit dependent folks, our BIPOC folks, our Black, brown, and Indigenous people of color are going to be very concerned about and very interested in. So again, I just want to say thank you for all the hard work, and I look forward to the continued work that's going to go on in this important topic.
Thank you, Director Silvo. Any final comments on this? I'm hearing none and seeing none. So, Mr. General Manager, back to you.
Yeah, all right, let's stop here because I can't. That's an hour, and I can't take any more. But let's give them the cheer. You're Trimet's number one. If we did anything wrong, we're always right. Everything we do is great. I gotta get a Trimet jingle to this. Okay. All right, that's enough. I'll do some more tomorrow, maybe.